Never-Ending Chain by Dragon Translator. Chapter 20. Never Again, Hiccup. As most of the tribe aided Dervla in getting her new house guests settled, Hiccup took the chance to speak to Gita.
"Please, draw that device you spoke of," he whispered. "We'll discuss it later."
Gita stared at him, then nodded her head. She glanced at Shadowfire. To Hiccup's surprise, the bigger dragon moved around so that he shielded Toothless from Stoic's line of sight. Hiccup blinked, then stared at Gita, eyebrow lifted. She smiled, then cut her eyes towards Toothless. Hiccup dipped his head and walked around Shadowfire. He climbed into Toothless's saddle. His dragon brother began to run back towards the upper level of the village. Hiccup glanced back over his left shoulder to see Shadowfire, Hookfang, Wingblaze, Barf and Belch, and Sugar and Spice standing in a way that blocked from the tribe's view of the path up. He also noted Stormfly stood in a way to watch him, Toothless and Sharpshot leave, but not draw attention to the fact that she could see. Astrid was not in Stormfly's saddle, and Hiccup remembered that she had been aiding Gothi to get the injured Nada settled in Dervla's home. Hiccup had a feeling she would not be pleased that he had slipped away, or that the others appeared to be aiding him. But Hiccup knew he had to. Whenever anxiety struck, Hiccup would climb into Toothless's saddle and just fly. Sometimes Toothless would perform tricks, usually when they reached the maze of sea stacks that had become their place of refuge. Dragons from the nest did use the sea stacks while on their patrols, but Hiccup noted that whenever he and his brothers were out there, the dragons steered around them. Upon asking Toothless, Hiccup had learned that the bonded dragons had explained Hiccup's need to be away when things overwhelmed, and the rest of the nest quickly agreed to keep an eye on the area but not bother Hiccup if he was there. At least if the reason was something less than a life or death matter. Now, as they reached the sea stacks, Toothless began a series of twirls and barrel rolls. Hiccup was able to let his mind clear as he instinctively shifted the tail fin to accommodate the movements. Toothless always did this whenever Hiccup needed to get away. They would fly for what seemed like hours, doing different aerial tricks. Sharpshot would hold on to the front of Hiccup's harness, so that Hiccup did not have to worry if the wind would rip the smaller dragon off. His brothers knew him well, and this time away from the tribe and the responsibility placed upon his shoulders, always let Hiccup recover and breathe again. Soon even the energetic Night Fury tired and landed on the sea stack. Hiccup dismounted and sat down. Toothless curled around him and Sharpshot laid down in his lap. For several heartbeats, the only sounds were the waves below, and the seabirds all around the sea stacks could be heard. Hiccup closed his eyes. A soft squawk that sounded both sorry and questioning had him opening them again. Stormfly, with Astrid upon her back, hovered just off the sea stack. Hiccup patted the ground beside him. Being away from the tribe was one thing, and something he found he had to do at times. Being away from Astrid for too long was another thing, and everything within him protested the thought of doing so. Besides, she did want to talk to him over his keeping her back at the Changewing nest. Now seemed like the better time for that conversation. At least, out here, the whole of the nest would not hear her telling him off and then fly away. Hiccup was certain that would be how this went. Astrid did not take well to being told to stand back when something happened. Stormfly landed and lowered so Astrid could slip out of the saddle. Hiccup noted that Sneaky hopped off Stormfly's back as well. Sharpshot moved out of Hiccup's lap, walking to stand next to his intended. Stormfly remained where she was. Toothless shifted his tail back into an invitation for Astrid to come closer. Hiccup's brow furrowed when she did not. His heart began to freeze in fear. The thing within him seemed to reel against the thoughts of Astrid yelling at him, and then leaving swirled in his mind. Astrid sat down near to Hiccup's left knee and kept her gaze upon her hands laying in her lap. Hiccup frowned.
"I'm sorry,"
Hiccup began, thinking that he should at least start with that. Maybe apologizing for what he did at the Changewing nest would cause her to think better of him. They were betrothed. The contract was signed and the bride price was paid. Breaking the contract now would dishonor both families. When they were ready, they would be married before the gods and the entire nest. This did not mean Astrid would be happy about it. The thing within him roared at protest for his thoughts, but his mind could not see how Astrid could stand his actions. He had kept her from doing something she wanted just because he feared the young Nada would offend the Changewings. That the action she wanted to perform was probably to stand at his side and guard him against the unknown dragons did not lessen Hiccup's fear that he had finally annoyed her to the point where she would not take. That she kept saying she was not going away also did not lessen his fear. The fear lived within him, rising whenever he felt overwhelmed, and not much could lessen it or cause it to quell. "Why?" she asked, her gaze jerking up to focus upon him. "I should be apologizing to you, Hiccup. I never noticed that you were not at morning or midday meals. I should have. Even with our stupid thoughts back then. You deserve to eat. I failed you again." Her sorrow evaporated his fear. Hiccup knew that any fear he held, or would ever hold over his past and his tribe returning to their old belief of him, always ran whenever faced with an upset Astrid. He sat forward, reaching for her. She stiffened when his arms encircled her, but she fell into his embrace a heartbeat later. Hiccup gently tugged. Astrid scooted closer and ended up in their favourite position. She sat between his legs, her back resting against his chest. His arms encircled her waist, her head laid back against his shoulder. His chin sat upon her shoulder.
"You didn't fail me," he whispered. "I didn't tell anyone."
"I should have seen it. I should have noticed you only ever came into the great hall in the evenings, or whenever we had to have all the tribe in there. I should have made sure you ate." Hiccup tightened his hold. She did not fight the action. The thing within him purred louder when she began rubbing her thumbs over his hands.
"No one noticed, Astrid.
Not even Gobbler," Hiccup whispered, his eyes closing.
"If anyone should have, it would have been him and Dad."
"But—"
"Shh. I don't hold that against you, Astrid."
"Hiccup."
"You didn't fail me, Astrid. Not over this. And you've already apologized."
Astrid sat up. Hiccup released her. She shifted to face him, her hands framing his face. "Never again," she whispered firmly. "No one is keeping you from eating with us. No one is ever going to blame you for anything. Ever again, Hiccup. I will not allow that. I vow this, Hiccup. No one is ever going to hurt you like we all did before Toothless. Never again." Hiccup's hands reached for her once again, one upon her back, the other lifted to bury into the loose hair right at her scalp. He pulled her close, her lips slanted over his. His heart soared and the thing within him purred as she returned the kiss. The purr grew louder as she tugged him close. He moaned as she buried a hand into his hair, and her other hand kneaded his back. They kept the kiss soft, a mutual agreement to not push too far. Neither wanted their parents to feel their dragon chaperones failed, and insist upon human ones that would stop moments like this. After what Hiccup was certain was an entire minute, and an entire hour in one, his lungs' demand for air made him pull back. He sighed and hummed as Astrid leaned her forehead against his. "I love you," she whispered.
Hiccup blinked. "You're not mad at me?"
Astrid lifted her head to stare at him. "Mad? Why—" "Oh, the young Nada." Astrid sighed, placing her forehead against his once more. "You trusted me to keep him from dishonoring you."
"You kept telling me you always have my back," Hiccup whispered. "But I know you didn't want to be a babysitter."
"I said I would support you, Hiccup. That may mean I have to support your choices even if I don't like them." It wasn't even being a babysitter that I disliked. It was not being able to stand beside you and keep you safe. We did not know how those squadrons would react, or how those change rings would have handled us being there. Astrid lifted her head and framed his face again. I love you, Hiccup, and no one, dragon or human, is allowed to hurt you ever again. Hiccup captured her lips with his. She pressed into him, the purr in his ears drowning out the waves and the seabirds. Fear rose again, whispering new words of being inadequate and unworthy for Astrid. The thing within him snarled at fear, but the words did not fade entirely until Astrid began to moan as his lips left hers and trailed kisses along both sides of her jawline before claiming her lips once more. Hiccup felt the thing within him wrestle fear into submission as Astrid held him as if she would never let him go. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. I really like that one. They do need to be open, and Hiccup's anxiety, that's been a mental struggle I've had. Recently, you guys would have seen I didn't upload for a week. My anxiety was kicking my butt, and the way Hiccup described it here, as being alive inside him and roaring for confidence, sweet lord, is that relatable. My anxiety is normally asleep inside me, but this last year, ever since April, it's been awake and roaring at me almost once a week, almost as a frigging routine. It's horrid, and I am getting therapy after Christmas. I went to therapy in 2019 and it really helped. So I'm going to do that again this year. But what can you do? I can't exactly help it. And while I don't have a significant other to help me kiss it away, I did meet with my best friend recently. We went and saw the Christmas lights together in London. I won't go through what he experienced, but he's going through his own rough time right now. And we both needed to help the other lift up. And I think we managed that. We walked around so many places in London, I went over 20,000 steps. It was great. We saw the lights at Oxford Street, we went in front of Buckingham Palace and walked down the Mall, went down South Bank to see the London Eye, crossed the bridge to the Houses of Parliament and Westminster Abbey. It was beautiful. So many bits of Christmas music were playing that we were just dancing along on the street. It was great. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified for whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and albino pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.